The wheel of time turns and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Welcome to Dragonmount. I'm Kathy Campbell,
I'm Rajiv Moté.
And I'm Maureen Carr.
and we are here for the final of the first three episodes that dropped for season 3 on Prime Video. So exciting! I love
Yes.
that this is the final episode before, like in this 3 episode drop. In episode 2, we talked a little bit about how much we really enjoy the fact that it's um, a 3 episode drop because they really can tell so much more of the story and really get you hooked. And this is the perfect example of how that works so well.
All right, so we are going to be talking about season 3, episode 3. This title is Seeds of Shadow. This was directed by Thomas Napper, and it was written for television by Beverly Occhio.
Yes. All right. And we start with probably one of my favorite scenes.
Yes.
Top 3 cold opens. Okay.
Mhm.
We get to learn about our favorite baddies just a little bit. And we start with Lord Gabriel, who is actually Robin. And we book readers knew this was kind of coming. And so I'm very excited that it was kind of released so quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was happy that right next episode they
Mhm.
revealed it. Didn't
Yes.
draw it out too much.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So he is in a room with Lanfear and Samael, who both come in through gateways. The animation on that, or CGI, special effects, whatever you want to call it, was pretty cool. I like how they did it. I'm very, yeah, it's very exciting. And Lanfear is being Lanfear. And it's like, oh, a queen in your bed already. You've only been free a month. And that ties out onto the hesitations that we saw last episode and what they meant.
Yeah, so Robin's been using compulsion, uh, which is a mental manipulation, but where this differs from the books is he can actually make people remember things. So, uh, you know, he's only been free for a little while, but for a month, but he's able to kind of make everybody he meets say, "Oh yeah, yeah, you're the prince consort," and "Oh, we're drinking buddies, aren't we?"
Yeah.
And so everyone is just kind of playing along, and at first they hesitate when they see him saying, "Wait, who are you?" Oh,
Oh, of
yes, it's
course.
you,
Yeah.
my old friend, Lord Gabriel.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's really interesting that how he did it with the boys and Elaine too, because
mhm,
clearly they were so much younger, and they have all of these memories of being drinking buddies and being
Mhm.
raised together, and the support that he had with their mom, and it's just really interesting, like that they gave that reveal so quickly, and I'm so
Mhm.
glad because
Yeah.
that was
and like
awesome.
before we get to the plots, then we should do a little call out for last episode because remember Gabriel came in and talked to Elaine and was very sort of sympathetic toward her and she was weighing, should I go back to Camelin or should I stay and follow my plans? And he was like, oh, I shouldn't tell you this, but I think you need to know your mom's kind of in trouble. The people
Yeah.
are against her, the armies are against her, and you might not have a crown when you get back. She wouldn't tell you that. Don't tell her I said so, but you ought to know.
Mhm.
So now we know for sure that that was sheer manipulation. He was pushing her that way, and she's
Mhm.
already resisted that.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
good on Elaine. Uh, you did the right thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, for sure. And we see the interaction between these Forsaken is so great. You can see that they really know each other very well. Samael is mocking Lanfear for loving Luce Theron and all of that. And there's, you know, you can feel the history between them,
Yeah.
which I think
Mhm.
is really well done in just this very short scene. It's just a few minutes long, and you really you can tell that they've known each other for a very long time. And they
And they
need
hate each
and
other.
they hate each
Yes.
other. Hate, so much hate, but they're willing to work together to get what they want. And that
You know,
is
or are they? Yeah, Lanfear comes with a proposal. She's called this meeting. So, yeah.
yeah.
What's the proposal, Kathy?
The proposal is that Lanfear wants help from Robin and Samael to help against Megideon, because Megideon is scary. Lanfear's scared of Megideon. We saw at the end of season 2 how scared she was, and it was time to kind of take a moment and be like, okay, I need some help, and I need help from people that are going to not be people that I'm scared of, I think is kind of her idea. They discuss how Mogideon is going to pick off Samael first because he's the weakest of them, then Robin, and then Lanfear is the strongest. And so here's 2 other, sacrifices that Lanfear can give to Mogideon, as well as get the support and help to distract her, to keep her busy, and also help protect her. And Samael is just kind of like, well, if you're so strong, then why aren't you Nameless? And Nameless is kind of the leader of all of the Forsaken, the person who's in charge, who's the right-hand man of the Great Lord. I almost was like, am I in Harry Potter? But no, that is also what they call.
The Great Lord of the Dark.
Yes, the Great Lord of the Dark. And but Lanfear thinks that somehow the Dark One still wants Ishi still wants Ishi in that role.
Yeah, and that's an important revelation here. We had such a big to do about how Ishamael wanted to die.
Yeah.
And he was looking up at the sky as he faded out and crumbled to dust. And, it was like, sweet release. I am done with this stupid cycle of the wheel. But no, apparently, and Lanfear knows this, of course, probably everyone, all of the Forsaken know this, but the Great Lord can still do something to bring him back. So Ishamael is not free of the Dark One, and apparently
possibly. We don't know for sure. Yeah.
But Lanfear suspects at least that that the Dark One still wants Ishamael as his right-hand man.
Yeah.
So that's one revelation here. The other revelation's a little more subtle, and that's that none of them argue the point of strength.
Yes.
They know each other's strength. This is not
it's not a surprise.
Thing.
Yeah.
So we do have a hierarchy here. They're still head and shoulders above anyone else in this age until Nynaeve, of course. But there is still a pecking order that deals with strength and the power.
Yeah. And Robin presents the idea of presenting this alliance to Grendel and Semirhage, who are 2 more Forsaken, which means that we now have named 7 of the 8 Forsaken that we know are here. I think we will include our guesses and speculation for who we think the 8th Forsaken is in the book to screen discussion. We'll do that first. So in case you want to be a part of that and hear the Forsaken conversations, but you don't want anything else, we'll make sure that that's the very first thing that we talk about. And then Samael and Lanfear leave, and Robin throws out the fact that he has another alliance and is working with Megideon, who sneaks out of the shadows and it basically says she doesn't want to play the same game. She's ready. Like, it didn't work last time. It's not going to work this time. And so, Robin, you're gonna be my partner in this, kind of, but also maybe not. I don't know. They're all playing the long game.
He goes in to embrace Mogideon, and there's an expression on her face like, Oh my God, he is totally misjudged this. She is going to like, bite his neck
Yes.
with little spidery
Oh
pedipalps.
my gosh.
But no, then she's okay for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Um,
it felt that secondhand embarrassment that you see, like if someone, is reaching for something over you and you think they're going in for a hug, or you wave to someone across the room and it's not who you thought they were, and so you're like all of that embarrassment just in that split second, and it was beautiful,
yeah.
especially because Robin and Gideon, they know each other very well too, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And that told me that even though there's a secret alliance here, there's no real like love or, uh, friendship in this relationship. They are playing their own games, and they are going
Mhm.
to, you know, what we know of the Dark One and the hierarchies that he engenders is, everybody's kind of out for themselves, and
Yeah.
they want to win, and even their allies are their competition.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
And two, this kind of helps sculpt the relationship that you can see with Lanfear and Rand as well.
you know,
And why she's holding on to this so much. The fact that she wants to trust him, and he's probably not letting a lot of that trust happen, because it's Rand, and he's like, you're forsaken, I can't trust you, and so she's trusting him kind of as much as she can, but still manipulating, still playing the game that she's been playing for
Mhm.
thousands and thousands of years. Like, this is not a surprise, um, and it's kind of sad, you know.
yeah. I guess I don't know how much I want to try to humanize the enemies, but we get a lot of humanization of Land, or not of Landverb, of Leandrin, and so I think it's fair game. But if you look at these Forsaken, they've been around for thousands of years. Granted, 3,000 of those years have been in hibernation,
Hmm.
but they've seen a lot of things. They've been struggling. They're pretty much friendless.
Yeah.
They don't have people they can trust, they can confide in, they can, people to have their backs or anything like that. And so when Lanfear acts like she's in love with Rand and, expresses that she wants their relationship, and that there might be some truth to that, because my God, what else do these people have other than the
Yes.
promise that the Dark One is giving them, whatever that is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And this is their entire existence. This is what
Yeah.
this is for. But yeah, that's the incredible, glorious, amazing cold open. I'm so excited to see more of the Forsaken. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to see their personalities,
Mhm.
and how they interact with the little people. Robin as Lord Gabriel is just fantastic. I
So amazing.
love seeing that manipulation that he gave. So
Mhm.
subtle. He is an
Yeah.
artist.
And he
And
was called a politician as well. So,
yes,
that's his skill. That is his area of expertise. Like Samael, you can tell he's already wearing a sword. He's got a
yes,
scar across his face.
Yeah.
This guy's a fighter. This
yeah,
guy's a brute.
Mhm.
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, they've all got their things.
Yep. Yep.
No
Mhm.
And
Gideon.
and I love that they all have different accents as well,
Yes, I
which
love every
is
single accent and how they're all different.
it's
It's
so
fantastic.
good. And it
Samael, the
flows.
Scottish brogue. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel fake. Like, it feels so authentic, like this is their character, and
Mhm.
I just love it. I just love it so
Yes.
much. Ugh.
Did you get a Uno vibe off of Samael? Because I sure did.
Not fully. I got the kind of more like they were like second cousins once removed type of an energy, which is kind of that grumpy fighter thing.
Yeah,
Um
yeah. That's totally what it is.
Also because they're both short kings, so like they have that same like syndrome thing
Yeah.
vibes going on. So
And they got that walk, that
Yes.
kind of stocky, short
Yeah.
guy walk.
My quads are too big. I can't like walk fully. Yeah.
Chafes.
Yes.
My thighs chafe.
Oh my gosh, amazing. So yeah, that is the cold open. And once again, we are going to split this episode up into the different locations. We're going to start with the waste. Then we'll go to the Two Rivers, and then we will go to the tower, which will also include the little snippet of Tanchico that we see. So let's go to the heat of the desert, which we learned through interviews. When they filmed this in South Africa, it was like over 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Massive, like horrible, trying to stay alive, trying to stay cool. I don't know if I know Maureen, you haven't watched it yet, but Rajiv, I don't know if you watched the behind the scenes yet that are on Amazon.
Not yet.
It's only for season 1 and season 2, but I'm so excited to see the stuff for season 2 because, or for season 3, the thing that they did for season 1, going into the ways, apparently it was so windy that they had to stop filming because they literally could not continue filming because everything was just blowing away, which is
Wait, in the ways or in the waste?
the ways. For
really?
season 1, when they were going through the waygate, like going up to the waygate on that big hill, the wind, like
okay.
Yeah, it was
I
not in the ways. No, not in the ways. That was
right?
yeah. The
My God,
waygate.
Mush and Shin was real.
But yes, clearly Mush and Shin was trying to cause havoc on the outside.
Got it.
All right.
So really hot in the waist.
Yes.
For real.
Really, like legitimately really hot. Thankfully their costumes, are appropriate for the weather, but the energy was there. And that's something that's really special, I think, about this show is how often they do film on location. It's a nightmare, but man, is it gorgeous. It really makes the difference. And I know the actors have talked about it too, how different it makes the filming and how special that is. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, we're in the waste, and here are a bunch of Aiel with Rand and company, who are not, Ruark especially is just not answering any questions. That's Wise One's business.
He's not named, but he's the giant guy.
Yes, he is the clan
Aiel.
chief of the Aiel.
Her dad.
Yes,
Her dad Aiel.
Yes, another daddy. Yes, Daddy, come on, baby, let's go.
Did you say he was 6'9" or 6'7"?
6'7", I think.
Okay,
is how tall he was. Yeah.
That's like,
go ahead.
Yeah, I think the reason was revealed now why they knew this party was coming, and it's because Wise One's business, as you said. We learn in this episode that it's about dreaming. And Bair, the white-haired woman who she saw last episode, actually tells her that, hey, you actually entered my dream. I wasn't in your dream. You came to mine. And so this is a revelation that this is an ability that we've only seen the Forsaken do. This was something Lanfear used quite a bit before, but even Ishamael used it in the first season. But this is something that even non-channelers can do, and Egwene apparently has that potential, has that power.
Yep.
So this is going to be yet another arrow in her quiver.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the fact that the Bair is willing to talk to her is also something I think really interesting. Giving her the support and starting to give information. Which is awesome. But that's how they knew that they were going to be here, because the dreams also do a little bit of foretelling type things. So they know what they have to do, and that includes where they need to be when they need to be there.
Yeah.
And
Just real
so,
quick before we move on
yeah,
from this, in the last episode we kind of talked a little bit about how Moraine was like, "Is Rain hurting you?" with the bruises on
yes,
Egwene's neck.
Yeah, yeah,
But now we do get Bayer talking about it, and then
yes.
Egwene does confirm that Moraine did say more. That sometimes the dreams get more real than we anticipate. So, I don't think we saw that on the screen, but I
yeah,
think Moraine did offer some solace or
Yeah,
some explanation or some comfort to
yeah,
Egwene, like, hey, this is what's actually going
right.
on.
yeah,
And that's kind of the lore, which they do explain in this episode, is that
Mm,
the world of dreams, this
yes.
Teleran Riyadh place, uh, is kind of a parallel world to our own, and not everyone who is dreaming enters it, but sometimes they can brush up against it,
hmm,
and that's when the dreams become a little more real and can leave a lasting impression, like physical impressions on your body. Uh, so, there's it's accessible potentially to anybody.
hmm,
Uh, Very few actually reach there for any extended period of time, and the ability to actually do things in that
yeah,
realm, like use it, is something that needs to be taught as a skill,
yep,
and that's what Bayer is going to teach Egwene.
yes, but not yet because
Not yet.
Mhm.
they found a slaughter of the
Yeah.
Tinkers have come into the waste. The Aiel normally would never touch the Tuatha on. They are not. The Aiel don't interact with them at all, and so the fact that something happened to them, um,
Yeah.
plus it looks like they are taken with sword wounds. Both of those things makes them think, oh, it's somebody else that came into the waste and is injuring them. But Lan looks at it a little bit deeper and thinks that it's a spear that was made to look like a sword. And this is where we hear about the Shido. Clearly, they don't like the Shido. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
something that it's not a group of people that they enjoy, especially if it's someone that they think would harm these innocents, because we know from
Mhm.
season 1 that the Tinkers won't harm anyone even to protect themselves. So clearly they didn't need to, like, this wasn't, an aggressive
Yeah.
thing that the Tinkers came in and tried to steal something or hurt somebody. And so
Yeah, it's killing for sport.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, uh,
And let's remind everyone kind of what we know of the Tinkers, also known as the Tuatha, also known as the Traveling People. They were a group of people. Remember in season 1, Perrin and Egwene kind of met up with them. They welcomed them to their wagons, and they traveled for a while together. And they taught Perrin about the Way of the Leaf, which
hmm,
is their belief system. It's a core belief system of theirs, which is it's sort of an extreme pacifism.
yeah.
Uh, the leaf falls where the leaf will fall. It does not fight its fate. It does what it's supposed
It
to.
does
That's the
not try to
idea.
cling to the branch.
Yes.
It does what nature says it to
Yeah.
do, and they take this to mean, that means even if somebody is hurting you, you kind of turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
If somebody is going to threaten you, you let them, take what they're
Yeah.
fighting for. And this idea too that, like, by injuring someone else, you're also injuring yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and so
An
they,
axe that's used against something itself is damaged
yeah,
in the damaging, is the idea, and they want to remain pure from that. That
yep,
is a strongly held belief,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think this becomes important later, and it's important that we've just learned their relationship to the Aiel.
The
The
lost
Aiel,
ones.
yes,
yeah, they call them the Lost Ones, and they
Mhm.
will not harm them. And Avienda kind of makes a snarky comment about, the only person with less honor than someone who won't defend themselves is someone who would harm someone who doesn't defend themselves.
yes,
So, whoever did this committed a moral crime.
Yes.
This is extremely offensive, and their minds immediately go to the Shido. So,
Yes.
who are these Shido? Who are these people? We will. They're clearly someone who, a group of people who are morally despised by this group
Yes.
of Aiel.
Yes. And they know through this discussion and conversation, Rand learns that they're taking him to Ruidian. Don't know what that is necessarily yet, but it's the place that they are going to go. And so they start to take off, and Egwene is asking them to stay and bury the bodies. This is clearly she traveled with the traveling people for a while,
Yeah,
has that
yeah,
connection, but also I think that the trauma and the fact that she saw so much, human waste of life when she was with the Shanshan, that there's this level of respect that she feels like she can give, because how many Damane were, just thrown away like trash. And so the combination of both of those makes her ask, hey, let's give them a little bit of respect, especially out in the desert where, anything can come and will just eat their bodies. And Ruark says goodbye to Bair, shade of his heart, and that he will bury the dead and meet them in Ruidian.
yeah.
Yeah.
I,
It's
I,
Mullane, who is very insistent, like, why do we care? They're not worth the
yeah,
time or the
Yes.
effort or the rocks, she says.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like there aren't so many rocks, but also like, yeah, it's you can kind of see the value of life, or the
yeah,
value of death in this, because they're not alive anymore, so there's nothing that
yeah.
they
And
have.
I feel like this was some sort of a turning point in how the Aiel perceive Egwene.
Mm-hmm.
She makes a stand, and it's a moral stand for these people that, we're going to learn more about them and their connection to the Aiel later. But uh, be having that compassion and the willingness to honor the dead
Mm-hmm.
is something that resonates with Aiel
Yeah.
culture. And it makes me kind of remember, like, there are a lot of parallels, and there's probably some riffs going on with Dune, right?
Yeah.
And so when we meet the Fremen, the desert people in Dune, um, and there's a fight, and Paul Muad'Dib, Atreides, kills one of them, and he cries, and he's giving water to the dead, and that just really impresses the Fremen. Like, oh my God, he's willing to do this. He has this compassion for our people,
Yeah.
that we wouldn't have expected from off-worlders.
Yeah.
And so this is, we talked last episode that Rand needs to win over the Aiel. He needs to bind them to him by making convincing them that he is one of
Mm-hmm.
theirs and he cares about them. Well, Egwene is starting the job.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. She's laying the groundwork there for both her relationship with the IAL, but also Rand. And Rand stands and watches Ruark a little bit before he then goes, which I thought was interesting that he didn't help. But we also don't know how long he stayed. But he
Right.
definitely stayed behind at least a little bit after everyone else left, which was an interesting choice.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
And then we're going to travel a little bit more as they're heading through the desert. But Bayer is going to give Egwene some more information about dream walking. They're set up for the night in the tents, and is explaining a little bit about, dream walking for the Aiel. Her and Mullane are the only ones that are the only dreamwalkers in the clan, but other wise ones are able to communicate. And you'll get confirmation that the injuries Egwene has came from the dream world. And that
And from a living
and from a
person who was
living person means
in the
it's
dream
not
world.
Rena, it's somebody using those
Yeah.
memories
Yeah.
to injure her.
And obviously, we know it's Lanfear. That was revealed last episode.
Yeah.
But now they're starting to put together the pieces. And
Mhm.
Melaine, was it Melaine or Bayer? One of them promises to help teach. After Ruidian, she's going to teach uh, Egwene how to protect herself.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
we already know one way is to run away.
Yes.
And to run away, you can literally just disintegrate and teleport and go somewhere
And
else.
decide to be somewhere else. Yeah.
Yes.
And I like the idea that this can also help Egwene get that final bit of healing, because all of these dreams have affected her significantly, understandably so. And so once the dreams stop, and we get just some regular nightmares, not these Teleron, not these dream world ones, then she can finally really heal, and I think that's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
definitely.
really good point. This is all a journey of like not really mastering yourself, but like taking agency, taking
Yes.
control, and being able to take the demons that are bludgeoning you, back, forward, and sideways, and actually master them. And we saw Rand last episode. He's trying to do that through the sword. He's trying to do that through the flame in the void exercise. Uh, all of these young people are learning how to master themselves.
Yes. Yeah, and that's really important, especially when you are in the dream world with a Forsaken, where Rand and Lanfear are hanging out in the dream world. And Lanfear is kind of explaining to Rand why she wanted him to go to Tyr and what they're going to do. Because once again, she has a level of trust in him through Lews Therin and those memories. But also, they spent some time together as, lovers hanging out in Cairhien. There were these moments of real human interaction that I think also lay onto this, and the fact that Lanfear is explaining that, hey, if we kill the Dark One, I am free of my oaths.
Yeah.
And that is her goal, is to get free of the oaths.
So that's really interesting. There are a couple of interesting details in here we need to explore. But last episode it was Lanfear saying, you know, Egwene, that little girl you're with, she's not going to be able to appreciate your dark side. She's not going to embrace it. She's going to be afraid of you. Only I, embrace the fullness of
Yes.
you.
Mhm.
And so at one point she was kind of nudging him towards the dark. Now she's changed tactics.
Yes.
Now it seems she's saying, you know what? I want to be good. Only you can save me.
Yes.
But
Yes. Oh
to
my
save me, you have to help
Kill
me
the Dark
kill
One.
the
Yes.
Dark One.
Yes. But
And
don't worry. I've got another tool that will help.
yeah, and that's an interesting piece of lore here. What did we call the
Sakarnan.
The Sakarnan?
Yes.
So this is a Sangreal that is the equivalent of Kalendor, which we learned about last episode, and it is as powerful, or a mega powerful amplifier of the one power, except it's made for women.
Yes.
And so the idea is, Rand, if you're holding Kalendor, if I'm holding Zakarnan, we can even take down the Dark One.
Yes.
Which is something nobody had ever considered before. Rand had
Right.
certainly never considered.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that this would be something I think that even anyone other than the Forsaken could do, just from a knowledge standpoint. Like, where would you even firepower? Like, there's not, an address in the Yellow Pages that says, this is where the Dark One lives. Like, you're going to need information somehow, as well as a lot of power.
Storm hell and take down the devil. That's what we're going to do.
Well, I mean, Donal Finn knows how to get down to hell following along the railroad tracks. So That's a Hadestown reference for anyone that doesn't know. He was the original West End Orpheus and was absolutely fantastic. But
I'm so envious.
oh my gosh, it was
I got to see that.
so incredible. I was so, yeah. Anyways, we're not this isn't a Donal Finn like
That's the bonus episode.
Yes. Oh, yes. Anyways, moving on. We see Maureen and Lan.
Hold on. Wait.
Oh, sorry.
One other thing we can get out of this is that Lanfear says Rand called her to the dream this time.
Yes.
Yes. Is that factual?
Good.
Like, or is she manipulating him, or is Rand another person that can enter Teleran Riyadh, like Egwene supposedly can?
Yeah.
Right. And I bet she'd be willing to teach him if it served her purpose too. So
yeah.
That is a very good point. So, this world of the Wheel of Time that we've known in the show has expanded.
Yes.
Now we have like another dimension that you can play in, and we haven't yet even learned just what's possible there.
Yes.
But this is a big piece of lore that we know from the books, and it's great to see it translated into that.
Yeah, so. It's so exciting. So exciting. Okay. Now can we go to the sweat tent? Okay.
Naked people.
Yes.
Naked people. Maureen and Lan are hanging out in the tent. A sweat tent, we learn, is how the Aiel keep themselves clean, because obviously they're not going to take a bath. Water is very scarce, and it is used only for special for the desperate need of things, and that does not include bathing. And so they instead sit in this tent that is basically like a sauna, and then they scrape the sweat off of their bodies to clean the pores out and just get rid of the gross dirt and whatever else ended up on their skin, and relax at the end of the night.
Relax, quote unquote. You can see Maureen and Lan are
so uncomfortable.
Not happy there.
So uncomfortable.
And it's such a nice contrast with, one of the first scenes we see with them in season 1 is the sharing a bath.
Yeah.
And Maureen heats it up with the power, and like Lan's just kind of luxuriating in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're pouring water on the steam, and he's just like, "Oh God, it's hotter."
Yeah.
So this is how far they've come.
Yes, very far, very far. And there's some flirting happening with the woman there. And Lan sees the flirting and encourages Maureen to, see if she can be happy. Obviously,
in other words, get over your ex. That's what a guy will tell another guy on how to get over your ex.
Yes. And obviously, Lan knows everything that happened, with Swan. That's not a surprise. He knows all of that. And so the fact that it's been long enough, is what he's kind of saying, of like, just have a moment of relief. Like, just find a moment to be happy. With a stranger is fine. Like, let's just, relax. Like, go be happy. I'm cool. I'll hang out here, dying of, overheating, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Except, oh no, go ahead. Go.
Yeah, Maureen answers in a, at least I saw this as a very male-female thing, but maybe it's not. It doesn't even boil down to that. But when Len says "go be happy," it's very much in the moment. And Maureen says, "Do you think this will make me happy?"
Yeah.
And she's thinking long term, and she's thinking, you know what, I don't. This isn't something
very
that's going to help
different
me.
types of relationships. Yeah, but
then someone makes eyes at him.
Right. And now someone else is coming over, and he's kind of like, no, I'm not interested, until she turns around and you see this beautiful tattoo of a golden crane, which is the symbol of Malkier, and Lan immediately attitude changes, because he. This is not something that somebody would do easily. it's only going to be someone that is connected to the Valkyrie people, and Lan wants to find out who that is and
Yeah.
what's going on.
So he follows her, but not in that way.
Yeah.
He needs some answers. Um, and I think this is really interesting because it's a follow-up from last episode where we got the lore about the Sword of Kings. So, uh, Lamb put away this sword that was the symbol of his kingship.
Yeah.
He is the king of a nation that has died. Uh, and he put away that sword. What does it mean to be a king if nothing, of a nation that doesn't exist
Yeah.
anymore?
Mhm.
So he put that away. It's just a painful memory. Now he needs that sword back because it has some properties that are necessary. It allows him to kill the Forsaken if necessary. So he
Yeah.
has to bear this sword. But he's also bearing that symbol then.
Yes.
And now one of his people, it turns out. So this woman, sorry, what's her name? Is it? I know they
Melindra.
repurposed her name.
Yeah.
Well,
Melindra.
Melindra, yeah. In the books, it's really more like Lady Adain RL, but we'll talk about that
Yeah.
later. Um, so Melindra is an expat. She fled Malkir as it was being overrun by the Blight. What destroyed that nation, and she was adopted by a wise one, one of the Aiel. That's up in the borderlands, so they're close, they're adjacent, and she was raised. She makes a mention to being willing to break her spears to follow Lamb if he were to raise the banner of the Golden Crane again. So she's a maiden of the spear now. She's a
Yeah.
warrior. She's uh, a soldier of the Aiel. But she also remembers Malkir, and
Yeah.
she sees the leather strap around Lan's forehead, which is the Hadori, and there's kind of this catechism. There's this saying that so long as one man wears the Hadori and one woman wears the Kisen, the nation of Malkir still lives.
Yeah.
And so she is really stirring some stuff in Land, some very conflicting stuff,
Yeah.
because now it's not just about him,
Right.
it's about his duty to his people. And where have we heard that before? There are all sorts of people
All
who
the
have
duty.
duty to
Duty,
their
duty,
people.
duty.
Yes. So now this is another kind of thing to tug at our collection of heroes
Yep.
here. Um, where it goes, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
But
And I think it also this was already tender. Lan already had the conversation with Nynaeve and had to leave her behind, and and his mother's ring, and so already feels this level of concern, and um it's an open wound, and
mhm,
then you see he sees another connection to his
Mhm.
people, and she is willing to do things that he is not willing to even talk about, and the fact that that is just out there, it's just he doesn't know what to do,
Yeah.
and it's difficult for sure.
And he said the sword is his weakness. And so the fact that he's got it
yeah,
out and somebody recognizes it, it's like somebody saying, I mean, the Aiel's going to understand the toe, or no, not the toe, the,
the G,
G.
honor and obligation, toe of
yeah,
obligation.
no, like when you're embarrassed, what is it?
Oh,
Like how they get so embarrassed so easily. Yes,
yeah,
Yes.
anyway, that's neither here nor there. So his wound, like you said, this piece of him that's his weakness, and now it's on
yeah,
display, and she picks that and she calls him out on it.
Yeah.
Like, well, why are you wearing that if you're not ready to take up this responsibility? And that was not his reason for taking it. Like he just needed
that's
it because
right.
Yeah.
it's a tool. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I'm sure that's really hard for him.
Yeah, because it's now a symbol of things that
Yep.
he's not ready to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you two think? Because on its face, this is an amazing coincidence. Uh, you can explain it by saying the writers wanted to illustrate this tension. In other words, the pattern made it
Yep.
happen, made
Yep.
this meeting happen, or is there something more sinister to it?
Sinister.
Sinister?
Yeah, I'm unsure, but I think that's a conversation for the book to screen discussion because we know some
Okay.
things that might
Yeah.
impact
Yeah.
this decision. I put it
Although I
on the
think it's up
list.
for grabs. I
Yeah,
think it's up for grabs
yeah, it
because
could be
not
either way.
everybody is who they are.
Yep,
But yeah.
yep. All right, so that is the waste. We are out of the heat of South Africa, and now we're heading back to Prague and the Two Rivers.
Okay.
Perrin is in this beautiful apple blossom orchard, which we learn is the burial ground. This is where Perrin's family is buried with an apple seed in their hands so that an apple tree will grow out of the grave. And Perrin has taken the broken ring that was broken by, the axe that Lanfear sent after him in Tar Valon, and is burying it with Layla's grave. And this is, more than just I feel like this is extremely symbolic,
Yeah.
like very obvious out there, but still is a beautiful kind of moment of I'm forgiving myself for
Yeah.
what
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's a journey that has been a long time coming. It's two,
For sure.
two
For
seasons,
sure.
2 whole seasons to get here, almost 2.5, and he's finally like, okay, it's time.
And we're juxtaposing a lot of different things about moving on, and even just the little interaction we just talked about between Maureen and Lan, where Lan was encouraging Maureen to find happiness. He was telling her to move on,
Yeah.
and she's holding out some hope still. So we'll see what happens there, but. Uh, Even you could, if you wanted to stretch that concept a little bit, uh, when we started this season, we had Lanfear talking about who you must become means leaving behind who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And Nynaeve gives the counter advice that says, no, 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 remember who you are. So it can, no matter what you become, remember who you are,
Yeah.
uh, because that's important.
Yeah.
Uh, so this additional tension, all these duels that we have in this show,
Yeah.
the past and the future, kind of what we've carried with us versus what we need to grasp.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. And Alana comes and is joining
Speaking of
Perrin.
which,
Speaking
yeah,
of which, here comes Alana. And you learn that the white streaks on her face are Ivan's ashes. From where Alana comes from, they wear their grief on their face by mixing the ashes with water, to and they wear their grief until it seeps in and becomes a part of you. I love the fact that they're taking this time to discuss different grief
yeah,
traditions, the different
Mhm.
mourning traditions. Here's two more. We saw some in season 1 with the warders. I think it's a little detail that didn't have to be added, and yet it helps make the reality of these people come alive. It's something that just adds another layer to the story, and I think it really it honors the way Robert Jordan writes, and it honors the way that Robert Jordan has created these cultures so
Mhm.
deeply, and it's just a little addition that I just really appreciate a whole lot.
Yeah.
I I am curious, like if I felt more familiar with showrunner Rafe Judkins and was in a room to ask him
Yeah.
questions, I might almost ask this, like, what it feels like you're focusing on people's methods of grieving, and that is a through line in all 3 seasons so far.
Hmm.
Uh, what's informing that? Is there something that you were trying to get out in there? And who knows? It could be script writers, it could be anyone,
Yeah.
but it feels very deliberate. It
Yeah.
feels like a focus that when you're playing for economy, when you have a big story and you're trying to streamline it, you don't necessarily dwell like you're
Mm-hmm.
dwelling on these moments here,
Mm.
but they certainly are doing that, and it feels important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And there's a little bit of a conversation about Alana's relationship with Ivan and Maxim and the balance that Ivan brought to their relationship. And we hear a little, she says, when half of a couple dies, the other one is left to grieve. When one of three departs, who owns that grief? And it's setting up a conversation that's going to happen later. But Alana is mourning, but there's a extra layer of difficulty that's part of this, and it's
Yeah.
you're gonna see it, the third party in that relationship, because back in the Wine Spring Inn, the maidens are bored, of course, because there's nothing to fight. There's no one here to fight. And they're trying to get Loyal to play Maiden's Kiss. And he is no fool. He may be slightly naive as an Ogier and not familiar with a lot of traditions and human interactions. And yet he saw what happened to Matt. And he's
He
just
saw.
like,
He
no,
saw.
no, I'm good.
I'm just so touched and tickled that they invite him to do that. Like
Yeah,
they're willing to pounce on
Yeah.
an Ogier. That's
it's
great.
so
Yeah.
cute.
I mean, maybe he thinks it's gross, but they're
Yeah. Yeah. I
humans.
don't know.
Okay, yeah.
You know what?
It's
I
just
don't.
kissing.
It's just kissing, and I don't know
Yeah.
I know.
if it's funny to me though that he doesn't even want to try and give it a chance, for
Right.
his
Yeah.
for his research. But they're trying. They're gonna try with Maxim instead, who knew it was coming. You could
Yeah.
see his face. The reaction here where you're just like he's waiting for it, and he is gonna take no prisoners with this.
Yeah.
And they want him to play, and he, oh, come on, we'll teach you how to play. And he says, it's funny that you think that I haven't already like, what makes you think I haven't already? I don't know how to play.
But he's not bantering. There is a bitter edge because he
Yes.
is in mourning, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm not scraping dirt off of this sword. It's the blood of the only man I loved."
Yeah.
Um, so he's yes, he can spar verbally, but he's got some pain that he is wearing
Yes.
on his sleeve at this
He
point.
is grieving, just like the ashes on Alana's face.
Yeah.
Maxim's grief is all over him, and it's coming out to just be there.
Yeah, and that difference of expression will become a plot point
Yep.
between them, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, can we? I don't know what there is to say about it, but I'm just fascinated. Like, I don't know much about polyamory or how those dynamics work and things like that. But, to explore that relationship dynamic through the lens of grief
Yeah.
is kind of amazing. And, like, I don't know where I would have come across that.
Yeah.
And to come across it in an epic fantasy show is really
It's
kinda
really special. And I think it's neat too. You saw a little bit of joy earlier, and now through the grief, you're kind of understanding their relationship a little bit more, and it's sad and it's heartbreaking, and it's also, I think it's important. I think at least in American culture, it's one of those things that people don't really talk about.
Yeah.
It's grief is something that you're supposed to keep it private, unless somebody asks you about it, and then you have to answer in the appropriate manner, and for the appropriate amount of time. How long is that? No one knows. It's whatever people say it is. And I think it's something unfortunate in our culture that is, it's not discussed, it's not talked about, and that includes grief for not just death, but grief for other things that end, grief for, what your life could have been if something hadn't have happened, a job loss, or, a worldwide pandemic, or, any of these things that happen there. It's okay to grieve. And it's important to be able to grieve so that you can go through and kind of work with where you're at, and then be able to move on to, continue with life and living, but still aware. There's the drawing of like what people think grief is, where it's just like grieving is a stair step where you grieve less and less. But then there's another one where it's a box and with a circle inside, and your grief is kind of a little button on the side, and the ball will get smaller, so it's going to hit that button less, but it's still there. And so you're still going to have these things that come up no matter how long how long ago they happened. There's still a chance that something can trigger that grief button. And so I love that this is kind of a part of a conversation in a high fantasy series. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, as adults, I think 90% of what we feel is grief.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And we just don't realize that's what it is. But going back to Alana and Maxim, I think this isn't exactly this. You think of a couple losing a child, and a lot of times that causes conflict between a spouse and their their partner, because one's grieving one way, one's grieving the other way, and they don't mesh. You're not grieving the right way. You're not grieving the right way. And so not exactly the same thing, but I think that's where this is coming from. It's like you're expecting somebody to mourn the same as you because you both love the same thing, but they're not.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep. Well, this very deep, dark conversation ends fairly abruptly as Perrin comes in because there's a group coming into town. Unfortunately, it doesn't make it very far before the doors open and this herd of people come in. And one of them is Lord Luke, who the Two Rivers folk know. He's been helping them with the White Cloaks, and they learn that Natty Cawthon and her daughters were arrested by the White Cloaks. And this is Matt Cawthon's mom that we met in season 1, and there was a little bit of season 2 as well with Nynaeve's accepted test. And obviously that wasn't the real Natty, but it's all good.
And Matt's nightmares.
Yes, and Matt's nightmares as well. Yeah. This is kind of
his sisters too, which are like the only people he actually like loves in his family.
Yes. Yeah. Matt did so much for them. And so, obviously Perrin realizes that this is important, not just because it's Matt's family, but he was already going to turn himself in. And now here's another reason, because hopefully he can get the Cawthons back. And we kind of see where they're being held, because Dane Bornhold is hanging out for the night and drinking a lot. He also is manifesting some grief here.
And let's just remind everyone, his father, Geoffrey Bornhold, was killed by Perrin when Perrin flew into a ridge when Geoffrey killed Hopper the wolf. So, a lot of blood begets blood sort of thing. But now, he knows that Dane Bornhold knows that his father's killer was from the Two Rivers, because that was basically his nickname. And he has come and he is looking for Perrin Ibarra.
Yes. And Eamon Valda, someone we haven't seen for a while, is here and wants to question. And that's question with a capital Q. This is the, dangerous questioning that we saw in season 1, where, Aes Sedai's got their hands cut off and a collection of rings gathered. And we saw an example with Perrin and Egwene. So we know it's not going to be a good thing. it's not going to be asking, what is your favorite color? But Dane has a little bit of honor left and is going to say, no, you don't get to. And Valda kind of pouts a little bit. But Dane relents and does say that, okay, fine. If Perrin doesn't show up, you can have the women, which is an interesting choice.
Yeah, yeah. And these questions, like, what do they need to know? They don't need to know anything. Their kind of purpose and pleasure, especially people like Eamon Valda, is just to inflict cruelty in the name of the light. So,
Yep.
we're going to ask you questions to trip you up and to make you seem like you are aligned with the shadow in some way, even if it means just like you've heard of something that
Yep.
nobody else, like, oh, you know about Trollocs. Wonder how you did that.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a dark friend. Maybe I get to burn you at the stake now.
Yes.
So, this is there's no real question here. There's no real information they're trying to glean. They don't have any agenda other than cruelty.
Yes, and it's there's some parallels in our world that we're not going to get into, but suffice to say, they don't want to be tortured. So, because of that, Perrin is going to give himself up. He's decided. He's talking to the Two Rivers and like, hey, I'm going to turn myself in. Don't worry about it. We'll get the Cothans back, and then everyone can focus on the Trollocs, because that is the most important thing. My life doesn't matter. Your lives do, for some reason. And yet, most of the Two Rivers folk are not having it, with the exception of Senbui, who is a grumpy old man. And he's like, but why? I don't want to do this. Like, let's go. You go and do that. And
we didn't mention Lord Luke's traveling companion, right?
Yes, who introduces herself as Mandarb, which Perrin laughs because that is Lan's horse's name. And so it's not a very mighty, but this person says, it means blade in the old tongue, and Perrin's like, yeah, I know. That doesn't mean it's not funny, because you're basically calling yourself a horse's name. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. And this is someone who is paying some interest to Perrin, who doesn't seem to be really allied with this kind of pompous Lord Luke guy, and she's taking the initiative to engage him, and God, she's got beautiful eyes.
Oh,
but,
yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yes. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. And Perrin tells Loyal what his plan is, that he's going to go and rescue the girls. Since the Two Rivers folk won't let him turn himself in, fine, I will just go rescue them, the way that I was rescued from the White Cloaks. And there's an obligation there that he feels, because it's his fault that the White Cloaks are here anyways. And then we head over to Maxim.
Oh, and Mandarb wants to help him.
Oh, yes, and Mandarb's willing to help. She's ready to go.
Yeah.
And Maxim and Alana have another conversation, where Maxim wants Alana to turn the bond off, because she hasn't done it in the past. Like when Ivan was alive, she would turn the bond off, like the interaction, the flow of emotions and feelings between them. And Maxim wants it off because he can tell that Alana doesn't feel grief for Ivan. And Alana says that she's not going to turn it off because she's drowning in Maxim's grief. There's no space for her own grief, because all she can feel is Maxim's grief. And you're looking at this, and it's just, it feels like a little bit of the chicken and the egg. like, is Alana not feeling her own grief because Maxim has so much?
Right.
Or does Maxim have so much because Alana has none? Like, where
Yeah.
is this balance of, they were a happy threesome for so long, or allegedly happy, and yet there's this connection that they're missing because of that third, leg on the stool. They're having trouble with this grief. And I can imagine it's multiplied from the grief, like you were talking about earlier, Maureen, about, a child, mourning the death of a child, because they can actually feel what the other is feeling. So it's not just you're doing it wrong, you're visually doing it wrong. They can feel each other, and feel what they're feeling, and that sucks.
Yeah.
And then back in the Wine Spring Inn, Mandarb comes and basically tells Perrin, I've never seen someone try to turn themselves in and fail.
Yeah.
And Perrin is like, hey, like, everyone needs to stay together. We're safer together. I know, like, they all start to, like, head back to their farms, but Perrin's like, wait, no, this is not a good idea. You need to stay here. You need to, like, stay as a group. We can protect ourselves against the Trollocs and the White Cloaks, both if we stay together. And suddenly they all decide to stay. They all were ready to go. Here's the weaves of the pattern are playing. To let them listen to Perrin, who did not want to be in charge. He doesn't want to be a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we know he's Taviran.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's
we're
the callback too, right? Is Perrin was saying, hey, you and Matt, Rand, you're leaders. You have a purpose. You have something to do. I'm not. I'm just going to go home. And of course, it turns out, well, you are a leader too.
Yeah.
You need to be a leader. This is a situation that calls for leadership, and you are going to say what sounds to you like common sense, but someone needs to say it.
Yeah.
Because that's what they were talking about in the last episode. That the two rivers folk are in the horns of a dilemma. On one hand, they have white cloaks that are kind of bullying and oppressing them, but they need the white cloaks because there are Trollocs in the forest, and the only soldiers that are around are the white cloaks. So, it's Ben and Chiad were saying, okay, if you invite the lion to defend you from the bear, then you're just making a decision on whose belly you go into.
Yeah.
But now Perrin is giving them a third path, which is to say, if you want to be protected, if you want to stay safe from these forces that are out to get you, you've got to band together.
Yes.
You've got to stay together. That's the first step. And, watching him as he makes his little common sense speech that everybody's, this guy's got a point. But Fail as Mandarb is certainly interested in seeing this guy who says he's not a leader and says he's doesn't have a purpose and is going to turn himself in, and yet seems to be doing the right thing in a way that needs to be done, in a way that the leader does.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
He's definitely caught her interest.
Yes, and she's caught his interest too, because he is asking her what her real name is, to which she replies, Fail, which means blade in the old tongue. Nope, sorry. Fail, which means falcon in the old tongue. And that hunting is basically in her blood. So this is going to be a perfect person to come and help rescue the coffins. And it's exciting. I love the actor is incredible. She's so sassy, and like, I love the haircut too, which is sometimes called a wolf cut. So there's a little bit of a connection between the two of them. And I like their chemistry together. I think it's
yeah.
going to be fun to see this relationship develop, whatever it's going to be, because who knows what it's going to be.
We saw in the trailer.
Yeah, we saw them kiss in the trailer.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: they kiss.
But then who doesn't in this show?
Right.
That's true. Good point.
It's very true. It's very true. So yeah, that is the Two Rivers. And now we're going to head back to Tar Valon, where we are finding Joya and Amiko hanging out, being tortured, kind of.
Those are the two Black Aja who tried to kill Swan Sanche, but who got basically knocked out by Maureen.
Yes.
And so now they are prisoners of the White Tower. They're the only known Black Aja prisoners, and they are being held.
And Baron says that Nynaeve and Elaine, for some reason, are the ones that are going to question. Which again, like, I get it, because they're not, like, Swan knows that they're not Black Aja, but really, these two little kids, comparatively to these Aes Sedai.
Can you train me in interrogation?
Yeah. Let's go real quick, because something tells me that wasn't quite daughter heir training. Was not, But what do I know?
I think the main point is that they can lie, right?
Yes.
And that's the advantage they have.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, they can lie, and they can also gather information from these Aes Sedai that think that they are children. They
can be underestimated. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, and they do learn some information. They learn about the hearts, and that the Black Aja know just a couple people. They're not interconnected, and that's why if something like this happens, they don't know the other members of the Black Aja in the tower.
And Robert Jordan talked about this. It's the same concept in the books. This is apparently a real KGB technique where, for embedded cells, it's a way of isolating the blast radius. If your spies are caught, there's only so much damage that can be done. You can't question them and expose the whole network. The network is segmented in a way that allows for insulation.
Yeah.
So the Black Aja in the tower are organized in the same way, and that tells us something significant, that there are a lot of them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a system where you only know three and then one other, then you can do the math on how many were actually revealed and say, there are more.
There are more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they are gonna learn some other information, and that's Amiko says that Leandrin is going to Tyr for Kalendor, and Joya says that Leandrin is going to find Mazrim Taim, who is the false dragon in Saldia. Both of them are going to, this is what they believe is going to happen. And Elaine and Nynaeve are trying to figure out, which is true, because one of them is lying. At least one of them is lying.
And, let's remember that Moraine and Lanfear's plan was for Rand to go to Tyr for Kalendor. So, if there was a Dark Aja or a Black Aja plot to be there for Rand, that's certainly plausible.
Yeah.
The other, let's have a reminder of what a false dragon is. Remember our awesome guy Logain.
Yes.
He was someone who claimed to be the Dragon Reborn, but wasn't. And he was gentled by the tower. He was severed from the one power, so he can no longer channel. And he ended up in a mental institution, but was still kind of a dangerous dude.
Yeah.
And,
he had
Mazrim
charisma.
Taim. He had charisma. And Mazrim Taim is another one of those dudes who hasn't been gentled yet.
Yes.
So, a potential other male channeler out there.
To go against Rand or
Yeah.
to pretend to be a different, there's no understanding necessarily why, so much as like, oh, maybe because the Red Aja need to, that's their job, is to take care of the male channelers. So that's where she's going to go. And Elena and Nynaeve are trying to figure out which one is true. And they realize that it doesn't necessarily have to be either of them, and that Leandrin is the key to this, especially because Leandrin did not kill Nynaeve. And previously, when she gave them up to the Shanshan, she released Nynaeve a little bit earlier in order to allow Nynaeve to, escape. And I think this says a lot about her character and about the connection that she made with Nynaeve. We saw this relationship develop last season, where you learn more about why Leandrin is the way that she is, and also why that connection might have been made. And it's because of, they did start to develop a friendship a little bit. Nynaeve found out about Leandrin's son, and this might be the key to what's happening. So Nynaeve is going to go to where Leandrin's son was and see if they can find any clues. Which they do.
Conveniently. There is a symbol in chalk under the bed. Remember that Leandrin's son, who was an old man, died, or was actually killed by Lanfear, because that was a weakness that Leandrin had. And Lanfear didn't want that weakness to affect her. So, this is something Leandrin had to swallow, had to take, because it's one of the Forsaken coming up and saying, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to take command of this now. And but that doesn't mean she's not mourning her son.
Yes.
And so the bed is empty, the room is cleaned out, but there is this symbol painted under the bed.
And so they look at it, and they don't see that a gray man is following them. And presumably they're going to head back to the tower, which is where we're going to head back to. And we see Elida, who has stayed behind. She is no longer with Morghese, the Queen of Andor. And she has these shakes in her hand. Her hands are shaking. Her bracelet is rattling, and she makes a mess, calls for a servant, and Min shows up instead, who is here to help her prepare. And it's so, oh no, it just happened to be Min. How did this happen that she was helping Elida?
Last we saw Min, she was with Swan Sanche and her group. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, but Elida gets all primed up and ready, and then wants to talk to Swan. But Barrett and Liane come, and they basically say no. This is the same game that they were playing in the last episode of, we're going to hold everything to the letter of the law. And that, like, she's alone. You can't see her right now. I have the power to tell you no. To which Elida says that she would like to formally request a private audience instead. And Varen comes in sassy that it's not that all sisters can request a private audience. Only sitters can request a private audience.
Are you a sitter?
Yeah. Neener.
So, like we talked about, I think even in the first episode, there's a lot of tower rules and
Yes.
And politics and maneuvering around the law, which seems to be a big theme within this season. Is just how to get around the law
Yeah.
to do what you want.
Yes. And that includes how to get around lying.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
we saw that with Leone telling Leandrin, that sure, I'll speak to the Amirlin, and she's speaking to herself because when the Amirlin's out of the tower, the keeper is the Amirlin. So they're masters at using words to be what they want the words
Mental
to be.
gymnastics.
Yes, exactly. So Elida has to have another plan, and she brings gifts to the Red Aja quarters. She gives some Andoran wild strawberries from the Queen's own forest to Galena, who is one of the Reds that was in a battle. She's got a big bruise on her face. And Satama gets jewelry that is apparently, according to Satama, gaudy. Which makes sense because she is stunning. Her outfit.
Oh, she's an elegant diva.
Yes,
gosh.
elegant
Yeah.
diva is the perfect title for
Yes.
her. I love the gold necklace thing. That's not
Yeah,
really
it's
a necklace,
beautiful.
but it's kind of is. So yeah, this type of a thing is not something that she would wear. But Elida would look good. This is something that you would. This is clearly your taste.
There's a lot of scorn there, and I wonder what the history is, because we learned last episode that Elida was almost Amerlin.
Yeah.
She could have been Amerlin, so she's up there. She's a competitor, and this is Sutama Wrath is her title is highest, and just a little lore note there. Every Aja has their sort of head of the Aja, and that's what she is, the head of the Red Aja. So has a place of prestige and power. But Elida was almost the head of the tower.
Yeah.
So what their relationship is and how Tsutama wants or how she views the return of Elida. Not sure yet, but there's no love lost certainly.
Yes. Yeah, and it's almost as if Satama needs to put out this super strong front so that she can get ahead.
Put Elida in her place.
Yep,
Yeah,
put
absolutely.
Elida in her place and show her that I don't care how long, how old you are, how powerful you are, how long you've been Aes Sedai. That doesn't matter. I'm the highest and I'm in charge and you're here. And what do you want? You're here for a reason. You're not just bringing gifts. What do you want?
Yeah, get to it.
Yeah. And Elida explains that she wants to return the status of the Red Aja, that, they were held out of the hall of the tower.
In the first episode of this season. Yeah.
And they basically aren't respected anymore. And not only are they not respected anymore, but they have not even been called upon to deal with the Dragon Reborn. This is their job. The Red Aja is there to take care of male channelers. Why are they not dealing with it?
Yeah. And I think that's really important because when you look when you kind of zoom back and look at what's happening with Swan Sanche and sort of what the objections are with her, and even the lies that Leandrin was spouting had their basis in truth. The dragon has been reborn. This is a big issue. It is the biggest issue.
Yes.
This is what the tower was possibly made for. The situation to deal with. The dragon is reborn. He is a man who can channel. The Red Aja have been preparing for this all this time. And what is happening in this, which should be our moment, Red Aja, we're like the weakest, least politically, powerful group.
We can be manipulated so powerful that we're not even allowed to be in the hall when one of our own sisters is being
we got shut down by the goddamn Blues. How is that?
Yeah.
So that's the background, and that's what Elida brings to this dynamic.
Yes.
And there is an angle in which she is absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that is a really convincing argument. I'm almost surprised this wasn't made in sort of an open forum of the Red Aja. We didn't see all the nods
You
happening
know
in the
they're all
background.
paying attention, but they're
But
not going to
yeah,
get involved. They know
Mhm.
everything that's
for
going
sure.
on, but they are not going to be a part of this
Yeah.
conversation.
But what Elida is saying is dangerous
Yes.
to Tsutama, definitely.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it's true. It's true. And Sutama's basically, okay, bye. You're done.
Mhm.
yeah,
You leave me alone.
dismissed.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Elida does not like that very much. No.
yeah.
Let's see catch up with Matt and Min, shall we? Matt
Yes.
is having his nightmares again. Still also ongoing. It's happening. And all he's hearing these battles and screaming and death and destruction in his head. And so clearly he's not sleeping very well. And Min is desperate to get Matt's forgiveness. She feels terrible, and this is something that she didn't want to do, but she had an opportunity. Ishmael was going to remove these visions, these nightmares that she sees every day. She can't control it. She can't manage to take care of this, and it's overwhelming. And there was an option for her to not have to have that anymore.
So he said.
Yes,
So
allegedly.
he promised.
Yes, yes.
And
Which
that's
of course,
why she betrayed
yeah.
Matt.
And of course, the Forsaken would never lie. And
Yeah,
it's
the father of
definitely...
lies would never
yeah,
lie.
Yeah. No, that's just a nickname. It doesn't really mean anything. But this opening up and talking to him as well lets Matt finally drop his guard just a little bit and explains like what he's going through and why he's not sleeping well and why he's grumpy. And it's clearly a way for Matt's on the road to forgiveness to Min. He's willing to be a little bit vulnerable at least.
And it's a moment of connection, right? Because if he's haunted by the past, she's haunted by the future. They don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
And they have this thing that was like imposed on them that they have to wrestle with every day. And that they already have sort of a sibling relationship, like you described it, Kathy. And this is another point of connection with which they can find sympathy for each other.
Yes, yes. And Min has a vision of Matt being hanged. And Matt recognizes the face that Min makes. And it basically is just like, no, don't tell me. I don't like it is. There's aggression here. Anyone looking from the outside would think that Matt is attacking Min, which is clearly what Gilad thinks, because he comes to save the day. I must protect this fair maiden.
I took bystander training.
Yes.
I am intervening.
Hey, don't accost this woman. She doesn't want it. I shall protect you.
I shall drub thee.
Yes. Yeah. And Min leaves and leaves with the terror of, having seen her friend die, basically.
And I 100%. Sorry, Rajiv.
No, please.
I 100% promise that it does show the red door frame back behind him when he's hanging.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
there.
So
that's a hint for the
file
books.
that.
Yeah, that's
But
not
we
for
need to
this
talk
part,
about it.
Maureen. That's for the books.
But I'm describing what the vision is.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes,
No,
that's fine.
that's valid.
Yes.
And I think well, okay, yeah, let's get to it.
We'll talk about it later. Again, let me add it to the hanging.
Good. Jot that down. We gotta talk about it.
Yep. Okay, cool. So the detectives, Elaine and Nynaeve Detective Agency is in full force as they are going through some paperwork, presumably, I think this is in like Varen's office or in the library, one of the two. But they are looking through papers. They find some information about the Tanchico symbols, birth and death ritual. And basically one of the symbols, the symbol that they saw under the bed, was the symbol of death. And in order to complete this ritual, you have to draw the symbol of birth where the person was birthed. This allows the spirit to be released. Because this is a Tanchico symbol.
That's a city, by the way.
Yes, the city of Tanchico believes in these rituals, so that makes sense as to why they would go, like why Leandrin would go back there and what she believes. And so
Leandrin is from Tanchico, so these are her customs.
Yes.
And they're connecting the dots now that this is probably where Leandrin went if she wants to complete this ritual.
And then they also are looking through the catalog of the items that were stolen from the 13th depository. And one of them is a bracelet that looks very much like the ones that the Shanshin had. And it also makes sense because Tanchico is where the Shanshin originated before they left the area, the land that they're at before they went to become a Shanshin. They lived in Tanchico. And so it's possibly that this bracelet is something that they also were looking for, but maybe not, but because they took it with them. They don't know, but basically they're putting little clues together and everything is said. Everything says go to Tanchico.
Right.
But they can't go yet because they're going to get attacked. And it's a gray man. The gray man that was following them throughout the city comes and attacks. Nynaeve is not able to channel.
And we know where this gray man came from, right?
Yes, we saw it at the end of season
episode.
2. Jaichim, who
Yeah.
wanted to be great or gray, depending on who you believe. We will all find out tomorrow as we're recording this Wednesday, March 12th. We will find out tomorrow, and I can't wait to turn on the closed captioning because once again, for anyone that is for some reason, an hour and a half into the third episode of season 3 and didn't listen to the other 2 episodes of our podcast, we are so lucky to have screeners, but unfortunately they do not come with closed caption. So we don't know what Magedian said, if it was great or gray, but we will find out. Anyways, Nynaeve is not able to channel, but Elaine is, and pushes the gray man away, out the door, into the hallway. They get up and go and find him dead, but not dead from being pushed by the power. No, he's dead by being stabbed. Yeah. Which is a surprise.
There is something in the tower that is, well, it killed the gray man, but is it trying to dispose of evidence, or is it,
protecting?
Yeah, protecting, but wants to remain anonymous for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who knows?
And the point is, there are lots of dangerous things happening that are not known to the people in this tower. So yeah.
Yes. But Varen finds them and identifies it as a gray man, and yet does not ask about the stabbing. And this is something that Nynaeve brings up to Elaine, that Varen did not ask what happened to the stabbing, like how it was stabbed, just, how did the gray man get here? Which was interesting. And Nynaeve pushes to get them to leave for Tanchico ASAP. It's time to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in Tanchico, we're going to hop over there real quick, travel much faster than the Black Aja or not even Elaine will. We see Leandrin and her posse arrive, and they interrupt a wedding of Jack Lenault, who happens to be the great-grandson of her son's father, who married her as a child bride. And it looks like that tradition is happening again because there is another child bride. which
Yeah.
clearly Leandrin, understandably so, does not like this, and tells her posse to don't hold back, get rid of them. And she takes the child into the corner and also calls in Naomi, who channels a very narrow. We saw this before. It's what she used, or I mean, something similar. The brain channeling to Adelaus to mess with her brain and basically makes the girl forget, because Leandra doesn't want her to have any of these memories. The memories of being a child bride and of seeing all of the death. Like, this is just, she doesn't care what else it might injure and ruin. The girl deserves to not have any of these memories at all.
It's very Kill Bill-esque.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that were so why is Leandrin coming into this building? You know, we're supposed to connect the dots, and that this is where uh, she grew up, basically, or not grew up, but this is where her marriage was,
Yeah.
and this is where she had her child, and so she's coming here to complete that ritual, where her son was born.
Yes.
And sure enough, the descendants of her horrible husband are still carrying on being horrible, and it's a bloodbath.
Yeah.
So this is a homecoming for Leandrin. It's a very angry homecoming. It is a grieving homecoming, and again, we are exploring grief in all sorts of ways in this show.
All sorts of ways, yeah. And it's a way for Leandrin to have a home base, because if everyone's dead, they can't claim the house as theirs. So that's a good plan for them. Anyways, I mean, not a good plan, because they're bad. These are bad characters. I'm fully aware of that. I'm not condoning this, but yeah.
But they've taken over the house.
But they've taken over the house now.
This is their home base in Tanchico, where the Black Aja are living.
Yep.
And sure enough, Nynaeve and Elaine are wise to the plan.
Yes.
So, or at least they know which city to look in.
Yeah, they're starting the plan. And then back in the tower, Elida knows that Min is a spy, but also knows that she is a seer. Now, how this happens, this is I don't understand, how she learned that Min was a seer, unless it was a foretelling. But that seems not like the type of foretellings that Elida has.
Maureen knew, Swan knew,
Yeah.
Viren knew.
Basically,
Leanna
what we're saying
knew.
is Min is not hiding very well.
Yeah.
But it also could be on purpose. There's so many layers of backstabbing and mixing up that it's hard to say what the plan really is.
Yeah, Min could be bait, or she could be discovered and then basically turned. But what I think one of the interesting things is that for those of you keeping score, we have 3 ways now, kind of 4 ways of predicting the future. So, or foretelling the future, I should say.
Yeah.
Min's visions, one of them. We have Elida, who reveals that she has occasionally visions. She can't control them. They don't happen as often as Min, but she can see the future sometimes. And
we have the dream walking.
We have the dream walking, which is how the Aiel knew that Rand was coming. And if you happen to have one of these methods and you write them down, that gives you the 4th method, which are prophecies.
Yes.
The prophecies of the dragon. That's how those prophecies were written.
Yeah.
From or tellings or
type of things. Yeah.
So it's not unheard of to be able to tell the future.
Yes, and we saw it in season 2 with Gitara. When she basically had a heart attack after foretelling that the dragon was born on the slopes of Dragonmount, and that the end was coming.
Yeah.
But Elida didn't see that. Instead, she saw that the Queendom of Andor would play a key role in the last battle. And that is why she teamed up with Morghese to win the Succession War and stayed on as the Queen's advisor. And so we know now why she stayed there. We don't know why she decided to hang out here. But we also learn that the bracelet that she's wearing is part of another foretelling of a sort, and that the Reds will take over the tower and find and cage the Dragon Reborn. There's a lot of belief in this foretelling.
Yeah. And you say, why is Elida staying here? And it might be that Morghese, maybe she could channel a little bit, but certainly not enough to become an Aes Sedai. Elaine is one of the most powerful channelers. Certainly equivalent to Egwene, not quite Nynaeve's level, but she's up there. She's a woman who has made the decision that she's going to be both Aes Sedai, full Aes Sedai, and queen.
Yes.
And so, smart money, which Elida is smart, says, okay, the Royal House of Andor, I'm putting my money on Elaine.
Yes.
I gotta stick close to her.
Let's be here. Let's support her. Let's do what is going on. And so Elida is bonding with Min a little bit, and they're learning. She clearly is going to pass on whatever she heard over to Swan and Liane and Varen, assumedly, because Liane then goes into the Red Aja quarters. To which the Red Aja says, I didn't realize you knew the location of the Red Quarters. To which Liane, eating one of the strawberries, says, I followed the rats. My sassy queen. Sassy queen. I love her so much. And
so let's frame this too, because there are two possibilities here. Either Min revealed the information, and Leanne is now acting to counter what Elida said at the end of her thing, which was that the Red will take over the tower, and they'll find and cage the Dragon Reborn. So this is a move on Leanna's part to stop that from happening, or it is so Elida and Min had an interesting conversation. Min feels powerless about her visions. It's like, I can see the future and I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
How terrible. And Elida says, I don't really see it that way. I see glimpses of the future too, but the parts leading up to it and the parts after it, those are up for grabs. And that's where I can make my moves.
Yes.
That's where I have my freedom. So I'm going to use my knowledge and I'm going to make the best of it. And, so she's thinking about it. She's strategizing and maneuvering. So, when Leanne comes into the Red Aja quarters, and what she is telling to Tama Wrath, who is the highest of the Red Aja, is, take 7 sisters and you're going to go after Mazrim Taim.
Yep.
Basically, I'm getting rid of you.
Yes.
So this coup that Elida is talking about can't happen.
Yes.
Ha ha ha, I'm so clever. Well, remember when Lyanna said to Elida, or Varen said to Elida, you can't see the Amerlin, because you're not a sitter. Well, now there's a vacancy because it takes a long time to travel.
Yes. Yes.
All the way to Saldea.
And clearly we need the highest to go and get this dragon, because once again, this is your job. Your role is to take care.
You had one job.
Yes, the Dragon Reborn, like the dragons, they're announcing, they're channeling, they're causing whatever. And so you need to be the one in charge of that, because you're the only one that we can trust to do this correctly.
Yeah.
And this brings to my mind Kung Fu Panda, where
Yes!
Master Oogway says one often finds their destiny on the road they take to avoid it. So
Yes.
Swan and Liana are
Ah,
doing this to preemptively stop Elida's prophecy, but in fact they're sealing it because they're putting Elida back in a position of power, which is going to get all the things in motion. So
Yes,
it's like
because
their own worst enemy.
they need a replacement for the sitter
Mhm.
now. And
Yeah.
who
beautiful
better?
quote, beautiful reference, Maureen.
Yes, I love it. What a perfect way to do it. You know, because of course now Elida is like, oh, well, we can't not have a sitter in the hall while she's gone. Whoever can we trust to be this temporary person? I don't know. And
Did I mention I was almost Amberlin?
yeah, hey, I've done this job before. I'm the one to trust. You know, let's do this.
Yeah. So everything's coming up, Elida. Everything's coming up red roses.
Yep.
And it's who's playing who, tough to say, but it really
Yeah.
looks like Elida's in control here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's successfully doing things that Swan wishes she could maneuver, basically,
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time for Maureen's favorite scene. This is the scene that book readers had been hoping for, wishing for, dreaming for. But it again, just like Rafe said, he's put as much of the books in the show that he can. It just might not be where we expect. And so yes, we get this beautiful fight. Galad and Gawain. So Matt is basically beating one of the weapons training things with a stick. And Galad and Gawain are taunting him because clearly he's not a real man. He's not using a sword.
Maureen, you wanna take it away? You wanna
Talk us through it.
narrate this?
No, I just want to talk about the aftermath.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, fine.
Go ahead, Kathy.
So Matt is basically, listen, I don't need swords. I have my bow and my quarterstaff, and that's all I need. So they leave him alone, kind of, but they're still in the training yard. And Nynaeve comes and tells Matt, "Hey, I know that I said I was going to stay and train in the tower, but I need to go to Tanchico and get Leandrin because, she's Black Aja and I'm the only one that could do it or whatever." And Matt insists on coming with Nynaeve because this was the whole reason that he stayed, was to be with Nynaeve and to have Nynaeve trust, like he put his trust in her that she would heal him. And so of course she's going to go with her. And she's not keen on that idea. He'll be safer here, which causes Matt to look like he's fighting with Nynaeve again. And Galad says, exactly what
don't
he did
fight with
Min.
women when Galad is around.
Yeah.
He has bystander training.
Yes.
And he's going to intervene.
He will intervene. And Matt is so over it. And proceeds to
First he makes a bet.
yes,
right?
make a bet
Oh, yeah.
because he's a gambler. Makes
Yeah.
a bet that, hey, I can beat both of you with your swords, me with my quarterstaff. And we know that they are very good, to the point where in the last episode they talked about how they barely even need warder training, and the warders are some of the most well-trained soldiers in the world because they're here to help protect the Aes Sedai. So clearly they're talented, but not talented enough to beat Matt.
2 marks each.
Yes, each, not just one, 2 marks from each of you. Yeah. And then he kicks their butt.
Oh, kicks it so good. So we did say this is from the books, and it's a fan favorite in the books because it's just so amazingly well done that Matt's just this country bumpkin and he comes in with a stick and he is able to beat 2 almost masters like it's nothing. And so when Gawain and Galad first showed up in episode 2 and they're in the fighting yard together, I started hyperventilating and I reached out to my spouse who is watching a different movie, and I have my headphones on because I'm watching the screener, and I was like, I need emotional support. Please hold my hand. And I was like emotionally preparing myself to see Matt kick their asses, and then it didn't happen. And I was like devastated. But now that we see it here, I do understand it wouldn't have fit right in
Yes.
episode 2.
Yes.
So that was more Galad and Gawain had to show off. Matt's not there to make a scene. He's not there to win the adoration. Well, I mean, I'm sure he would like
He would
to
have
win the
enjoyed
adoration
at least a little bit of
the novices.
adoration.
Yeah.
Someone to
His room
recognize
would
his
would have.
his room
pennon.
would have been quieter around him at
Yes.
least. You know?
Yeah, that's true. But that's not the main point. The main point is like these boys are being stupid and he's gonna show them what's what.
Yeah.
And so again, so this time I actually when Min was walking through and Galad came in, started talking to him when they were having that altercation, I reached out to my spouse and I was like, I need emotional support. Here it is for reals. And then it didn't come again. And so finally for this one, I was like, okay, this better be it or else. I was wound up pretty tight by that point. But it made sense that this was where it was done.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make another movie reference, but if you've seen the movie Big Country with Gregory Peck, there's one scene where he his girlfriend wants him to fight another guy. And he's like, no, I'm not going to fight for you. And it's not till later when it's dark and nobody's there, he goes and beats up the other guy because it's his own score. So it's not Matt needs an audience. Matt's not doing it for everyone else.
Yeah.
He's doing it because it's for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think there's something really powerful that he's doing it in the privacy of this thing, to push back against Galad, who thinks that he's this, horrible man who's accosting women all the time, because that's all he's seen is in these interactions. And so it fits really, really well in the story here. And Nynaeve witnessed it, so that's all that you need.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
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 I
and that's convinced her, right?
would have enjoyed it if he had a bigger audience, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's okay. You know what? You can have your opinion, but again, you're not.
Well, like you said, we were the audience, so we witnessed. It's okay.
Yes.
Someone more witnessed.
Yes, we're the audience.
And in this one, he drew on his memories from the Horn.
Yeah.
Because even Min said, if you could get the warrior, I don't even remember how she said it, but if you can channel the warrior spirit that you had when you blew the horn, we can do something better. So I think he obviously did that in this, whereas in the book, that wasn't necessarily what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think that makes it, that ties in, the horn blowing and all of that, and adds some information to what type of memories that he's having, which is nice.
Yeah. So it fit here.
Yep. All right. And then last scene of the well, not really, just kidding. So Matt decides to join Nynaeve and Elaine, and Min does too. She is sneaking onto the docks with them, and we then see Leandrin completing the ritual with her son in Tanchico, and remembering the horrors of her own marriage. Once again, more grief coming here. And after she has fulfilled this grief moment, she comes back and they realize that the bracelet is part of a male Adam. And they see a picture of, the collar that inspired the Shanshin, most likely. And because she knows that there's a statue, she knows that this probably exists, and that somewhere in here is the matching collar. And that means that this is the place that they need to be.
And let's remind folks that the Adam is the bracelet and collar technology that they use to control female channelers. But as they're looking at these schematics for this much older artifact, they have reached the conclusion that this is actually for a man.
Yes, and that there's
who is
two
the
bracelets.
Man who channels?
Yeah. And so that they're going to search for it. And there's another servant hanging out in the city, and it's Magedian, who is disguised as a servant and learning what Leandrin and her posse are doing. Because she is the spider, she hides in the shadows. and she's going to use that information however she wants. And that's the episode. The end of season 3, or the end. Whoa, nope. The end of episode 3. Episode 3, not season 3. We still have several more episodes to go. But this is the end of that 3 episode drop. And what a way to end. I'm sure there are people that are just going to come in and binge all 3 of these episodes, and it's going to be intense. And then you have to wait for a week. Which is sad.
So unfair. So unfair.
It's a lot to chew on.
Yeah. But it's good. They can sit with these 3 episodes a bit. Maybe that's why you're listening to us. Yes, watch them, listen to us talk about it, listen to other people talk about it. There's so many things to do.
Saturate yourself.
How do you 2 feel about binging versus watching on a weekly cadence?
I think it's for a show like this, there's something to be said about watching it on a weekly cadence, to be able to really sit with the stuff and think about what the future episodes are going to bring. And I do like that, but there's also some joy in things like the lighter stuff that come out on different streaming platforms where you get to sit down and just watch it all. There's something about that that's really nice.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
I like the weekly stuff. I love to theorize. I love talking with folks and saying, hey, did you notice this? Did you notice that? That's why I love doing this podcast.
Yes, which is great.
We get to do that. But I was, just as a side, I'm also a fan of the show Severance, and I know, Kathy, you watch this. Jimmy Kimmel apparently is a fan, and he came on the official Severance podcast, and he was invited to talk because he's a big fan, and he was given the entirety of season 2, and he said, nope, no way, I'm not going to watch it. I'll ask you guys questions, but I'm not going to watch it because I need to watch this as it comes out with my friends, talk about it, scour through the details, do all of that. So even these big stars are like,
nope, I'm going to embrace the weekly.
Let me savor my entertainment.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Are we ready for blowing the spoiler horn of Valir? Whew, I've got my list. All right.
Let's go down your list.
All right. Let's start with the Forsaken.
Yes.
Okay. So 8 Forsaken.
Okay.
Samael, Lanfear, Robin, Moghedien, Ishmael, Grendel, and Semirhage are the named Forsaken, which means there is one more that is not named.
And my hope is that it's Asmodean.
Yes, same.
And I think you're probably right, because in season 2 we did see a little shrine with figurines of the Forsaken. There were 8, and one of them had a guitar, so the musician is Asmodean. And I'll just drop in here and put a plug for an article I have in Dragonmount, which is entitled The Apocryphal History of Bow the Wild, which is all about Demon Dread. And he was my favorite Forsaken.
Yeah.
And he was my favorite because of a chunk of text that Brandon Sanderson wrote that was not included. So that's why it's apocryphal. It's not included in the canon of the books. But Demon Dread was built up to be this sort of parallel track anti-hero to Rand. Like, he had supporters, he had a love life, he had quests he had to fulfill, and instead of becoming the dragon, he became the dragon slayer. And it was like fate was weaving these 2 men on parallel tracks to meet. And of course, there's in the books, this is the book reader spoilers.
Yes.
We know that there's an absolutely spectacular set of fights that Demon Dread is involved in.
Yeah.
and it's extremely satisfying, and it's not with Rand,
Yes.
but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think the fun that I had with Demon Dread, we did get a name drop here of Mazrim Tame. We got it a
Yes.
few times. And, for a long time, even Robert Jordan was going to make Demon Dread basically Mazrim Tame, and then too many people guessed it, so we just kind of
He
tweaked that and
pouted
changed
and
it.
decided, no, I'm
Yeah.
going to have it be this secret person that's
He's
only going to
being
come in.
mentored by
Yes.
by Demon Dread.
Like, how dare my foreshadowing lead me to the right conclusion?
How dare people read me closely?
Yes. Yes,
Of course
exactly.
we did. But whatever, that's fine. I think all of the fun that I had with Demon Dread can be had in the show with Mazrim Tam, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm really looking forward to Logain re-entering the fray.
Yes.
God, yes.
And I'm looking forward to all of those guys, the Black Tower, all that cool
Yes.
stuff is still in the offing. So
Yes.
this will be fun.
Yeah. And I love that this is dropped in there, that Tame is here. We know 7 of the 8, and like all of this information can go so deep from the book readers and not know for sure. That's the part that I love, is that we are still getting to sit here and think about what we think is planned, because we don't know. We don't know. It could be anything.
Well, okay, let's on that topic then. We had our Dark Friend gathering, and Samael was identified as the weakest, at least in the room.
Yes.
The weakest Forsaken in the room. If it is, and I do agree with you, it's going to be Asmodean, who's the 4th male Forsaken. In the books, in the Shadow Rising, which is what this season is adapting, the problem is that Rand needs a teacher, and Lanfear decides to gift wrap Asmodean and give him a teacher that way.
Yeah.
Will it be Samael or will it be Asmodean? And if it was going to be Asmodean, shouldn't we have been introduced to him by now?
Yeah, that's the part. Well, and so I was talking to other people as we tried to figure out who all 8 were, and of course I wasn't telling them what I knew, which was very hard. So they're going down the list, and there was a very good argument for Bilal being in there, being the 8th one, because of the Stone of Tyr.
Because of Kalandar,
yeah,
right.
and the protection there, the hanging out there. And now it could be that this is going to be Asmodean, or Demon Dread is going to take the place of Bilal's character in the books.
Samael could be in Tyr instead of Ilian.
Yeah, and so
Samael's wearing a sword already, because that's what Bilal's whole thing was. He was a blade master, and he was trying to get Rand to break the wards around Kalandor, take Kalandor, and then he could claim Kalandor.
Yeah.
So that was the stratagem.
Yeah. And so that could be, so it could be Samael, it could be Asmodean or Bilal, or some like combination of them.
It could be anyone.
It could be anyone. I mean, to be fair, we don't have any apostrophes in any other of the Forsaken names, and fantasy stories love their apostrophes, so throwing Bilal in there would give an apostrophe name for Forsaken. But yeah, I think it's Asmodean, and I
hope so.
And but
the little guitar figurine
it kind of but again, it could be Demon Dread and Asmodean combined, or there's any of these options are available.
Yeah.
But what I find,
think they gave I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the interesting part is that we still don't know. They did not mention at all. And it's like, well, where is he then?
Do you think we'll get a Who Killed Asmodean arc?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, it's like it almost demands a nod,
Yeah.
just because it was such a big thing during the books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Too big a can of worms.
Yeah.
I don't see it fitting into
especially when you have the idea that Robert Jordan couldn't understand why you could figure out who Demandred was, but you couldn't figure out who killed him Asmodean.
Right.
Like, he was shocked with that. I mean, it's so funny to me that this was such a big deal.
I mean, on Usenet, I actually wrote a whole transcript of a court case, which was the case against Samael. Why Samael killed Asmodean. Because
Wow.
you know, but it turned out not to be.
Yeah.
Oh well, maybe it's Grendel.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think having a nod to that is good enough, or at least like, you know, an acknowledgement. Just like, you know what, I'm gonna put this out here again. Please, Rafe, because clearly you're listening to this. Hi, Rafe. I adore you. Thank you for everything that you've done for us. I want to nod to my German Shepherd. That's all. Okay? Please, you know, as we're, you know, Rajiv is talking about Usenet in the article that he wrote forever ago, I asked Robert Jordan a question. If you open a gateway in front of you with the exit behind you, could you balefire yourself? To which Robert Jordan answered, young woman, young lady, you need to go have an affair with a man, woman, or German Shepherd. Either way, you need to get a life. So that was said directly to me. And so I really want, even, it doesn't have to be me. I'm okay. Like, would I love it? Yes. Yes, I would. But just a nod, just a German Shepherd hanging out with an Aes Sedai. That's all. That's all I need. That would make my heart so happy. So happy. I don't have a character in the books. Instead, I have this lore. So, you know what? We take what we can get. We take what we can get.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, well, let's move to the next book topic, because I feel like we're...
Yes, we could talk
hours.
forever. Okay, so the next one on my list is the Sicarnan.
Okay, go.
So found on the internet that the Sicarnan is a named thing in the books, but it was a male channeling Sangreal. Not as big as the Chodan Call, not as big as Kalendor, etc., but it is named.
So if you read The River of Souls, which is Brandon Sanderson's outtake where he gives Demon Dread's history, basically that thing he has, that mace-like sangreal he has, is made of two components. One is like a rod with a top, and then one is a sphere that's screwed onto it. And so the Sicarnan is one of those. And
so I think they took this so that it could have a name for Sangreal, and I think they're gonna not do the Chodan Call at all,
Right.
and instead we're gonna have Kalendor. Yeah, Kalendor and the Sicarnan together will be what will excuse me, what will cleanse the taint.
Yeah.
In the future.
The corruption.
Sorry, the corruption. Yes, we can't say taint.
Well, we can, but then we have to.
Yes. So yeah, I think it makes sense to pull
young
something with a
people
name.
back then, we didn't, taint didn't carry.
We didn't know the joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't part of it. Okay.
Okay. So
Yes. Let's dig into this.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah. To be explicit about it, we had two sets of Sangreal, and Kalendor was one of them, and it was this weird thing in the books where, yes, it absolutely magnified the male half of the one power Sidene, but it also magnified the corruption on Sidene, and that was because it had a secret thing where it was also a Sangreal for the true power, in other words, the Dark One's energy. So that was part of the lore of how you resolve the situation.
Yes.
But there were also these two giant statues, the Chodan Kal, which were created in the War of Power to basically kill the Dark One. Like, they were, this was so powerful that you could actually have that sort of ambition. And it was accessed by two smaller versions of those statues of people holding these crystal spheres that were found in Ruidian. And I think we've just streamlined this where we'll say Kalendor is Kalendor. It is the most powerful male Sangreal, and this other artifact, which we're calling the Sarkanin, or whatever it was, is the most powerful female
Yes.
Sangreal.
Yeah.
So they can pull double duty now.
Mhm.
We don't need the Choden Call in here. We have these two artifacts that can resolve the story, but it can also potentially, as far as Lanfear is concerned, kill the Dark One together.
Yeah.
So what are you
Yeah.
going to do with them?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I feel like it adds something to Kalendor. We know that in the books, basically, yep, Rand gets the sword, pulls the sword from the stone, and then one book later stabs it in and is like, okay, bye, I don't need you anymore, cool. And I think that's something that's really unfortunate. Robert Jordan has a history of coming in and being like, okay, this is I don't need this anymore, let's do this, or let's move on. I've done this trick, let's find something else. And I think the magic of the show is that because Rafe, and this is something that he has talked about, is he's providing the entire story. He is making the entire series into this show, not just each individual book. And because of that, he can combine things, he can narrow it down and not make Kalendor be a stupid thing that is used for one book and then, oh, just kidding, there's going to be a tiny little bit at the end that's going to make a difference, except it doesn't really, but it does. But yeah, basically comes in and it's just says, yeah, let's do it this way, which I really like. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's the difference between adapting a complete work and writing novels as you're going forward.
Yes.
There are some authors who've written themselves into corners and are desperately trying to get out of those corners.
But
so,
we're not going to talk about them.
No. But if the alternative is that you say, this is too dangerous for me to use right now, I'm gonna put words around it and leave it until I need it at the end. Hey, we got the end of the book.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it required help.
Yes, exactly. Yes. All right. So next thing is Ishi's future/death, and the idea of the reincarnation and the power that the Dark One has, whether he was able to take care of Ishi and bring him back as possibly Shadar Haran or Moradin, or if he is actually gone, like if he is actually dead and the Dark One isn't able to, because of course Lanfear didn't know how he died or like how this ended. She wasn't there. So it's possible that Lanfear thinks that Ishi could come back, but he can't. I don't know. There's a couple.
So you said something interesting, and I'm wondering, Kathy, whether you misspoke or you were saying this on purpose. Do you see a scenario where Ishamael comes back as Shadar Haran, the
The super
giant
fade?
Merdral? Yeah, the super fade.
I think it is a possibility.
I could see that.
Some sort of combination of using a stolen soul with the creation of Fade, because it also in the books it was kind of always, it seemed weird. How did the super fade get to be a super fade? Was it Agenor that created like a super fade, or like what how did this happen? And so it could have a little bit of an explanation by combining this and combining Moradin together into this character. I could see that happening.
And like Shadar Haran was the manifestation, the physical manifestation of the Dark One as he started to escape his prison. And there was always this refrain in the books that Ishamael was half mad. He sometimes even thought he was the Dark One.
Yes.
And they also said, I had all these kind of ironic foreshadowings of, oh, Rand, you can't do that, you're not the creator. And of course, by the final thing, Rand is weaving the weaves of creation itself to recreate the universe.
Yeah.
So yeah, you are.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I can see the opposite number happening
Yeah.
where Shamael becomes the avatar of the Great Wolf
Yeah.
of the Dark.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what that option is, or again, if it's just Lanfear saying, "Hey, I'm not sure why I'm not nameless yet. I'm clearly the strongest. I'm the only one doing anything important. So let's go. You know, I should be nameless, but I'm not. So clearly, Ishi's somewhere doing something."
I'm hoping actually, and so like in the books, right? Shamael
no,
comes back
it's
as what? Oh, Shamael comes back as Moradin, so a different person, a different face, and all of that. I would just love to see the original actor Faris Faris.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
want
come
him
back.
back. He was
Yeah.
so good.
So
So
if
good.
we're gonna resurrect
Yeah.
this guy, let's just resurrect the original.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, please. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, but I want to say
Yes.
that just real quick, the Dark One is obviously mourning the same as everybody else is, and so he hasn't processed Ishi's death, and that's why he hasn't moved on and chosen another nameless.
Another grief moment.
Oh
here.
my God!
It all comes back to grief.
Maureen. Yeah, the Dark One himself is a relatable character.
Wow. Okay, Fail and Lord Luke.
Yeah.
I love that Lord Luke is back. Do we think he's gonna be Slayer? Do we think he's just a nod to him? Like, what are we thinking? The vibes were not on with Lord Luke. He didn't feel pompous enough to really come and be the type of person that rode in on a lion, where you would think that he was actually riding a lion, not a horse named Lion. Like, it felt like he just happened to be someone named Lord Luke, which I'm okay with. Don't get me wrong. I love the nod to the book readers. And then I also love the idea of not having the Slayer.
And
thing.
we talked about this, I think, when we talked about the trailer. I'm firmly in the camp that I want Slayer. He doesn't have to be as complex as he was in the books and weird, where he's a hybrid of two different individuals. But I do like the idea of Perrin having his own adversary, especially with Fane having disappeared, and someone who, you know, especially if we're getting into Tel'aran'rhiod and we're getting into the Wolf Dream and we're getting into Perrin being able to shift between those environments and start doing things, he needs an adversary who's also there and presenting a danger to him.
That's a good point.
And I think putting it that way I can see, but again, making it not as confusing, because I still don't understand it, and I've read it how many times, and it's been like I listen, I'm not dumb.
No,
but it's way too
not
complex.
Explained. I only have theories.
Yeah,
it's
another one of those things that is not explained. There's so much in these books that there's still things that you can theorize about, and that's what's bananas. And that's also why, you know, the community is so ready to, you know, zoom and enhance on any little picture and find all of the things. And I love it. I can't wait to see what everyone says about these episodes and what we missed. Okay, so next up, Melindra. Do we think that, so since Matt is not in the waste, again, just like people were freaking out, oh my gosh, it means he's not going to get the wolf thing. Listen, you can get it anywhere, as seen by the fact that the picture had him wearing the wolf head medallion. So
and Maureen saw the red door
the red door frame around him being hung, and Min saw this, so like clearly something's going to happen there. But that means that we're not going to have Melindra try and kill Matt. Do we think she's going to try and kill Lan?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is, you know, we have the name Melindra, who was a dark friend, Maiden of the Spear, who shacked up with Matt for a while because Matt was also in the waste, and was working secretly for Samael and tried to assassinate Matt. But
wasn't she a Shido?
Was she a Shido? I don't even remember. But She
I think
had
she
she
was.
had
Yeah,
a
I think
golden
I
bees.
think she was a Shido that left
Okay.
the Shido, so she was an
Okay.
unnamed, like
Yeah.
an unclanned maiden,
Right.
and came
Right.
to hang out with her.
So we have that coming from the name Melindra,
Hmm.
but the whole Golden Crane Lan, I will follow you anywhere, if you just raise the banner again. That is coming from the book New Spring.
Yes,
And there was a queen, not a queen, maybe it was a queen,
I think she
a
was a queen,
noble
noble.
lady, yeah,
Yes,
Eden Arel, who was a schemer and wanted to manipulate Lan into basically resurrecting the cause of Malkir, and then that would bring her power, even though they were all expatriates living in other borderlands. She was hoping that her path to power would be. She was actually once Lan's lover, but now she wanted to marry her
yeah,
daughter to Lan and then,
that's
go through there. So lots of
right.
real weird
Mhm.
crap there.
Oh my gosh, I
Uh,
have not read New Spring in a while. I
yeah,
need to
yeah.
reread it.
And then at the same time, there was the tower that was trying to get Moraine to, hey, you're Laman's niece, right? So maybe you could be an Aes Sedai and the Queen of Cairion. And Moraine wanted nothing to do with that, and that's part of why she took the mission and just like left the tower and didn't come back
Yeah,
because she didn't want to be manipulated into that kind of political thing. So
yeah.
she was fleeing a queendom, he was fleeing a kingdom, and
They
yeah,
could flee with each other and
yeah,
manage each other, and that would be a way
yeah,
to really work together.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the show pursuing? I'm not sure. Are they just pursuing the, my duty is to the past versus my duty is to the future, thing? Or are they also doing the thing where, oh, I'm a dark friend and I'm manipulating you and
Yeah.
I'm trying to lead you astray?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Any
Yeah.
any of those are possible, and
yeah.
we don't know.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
let's find out. Let's watch and find out, I think, is the answer.
Yeah.
And that's all I have. All right. You can find links to follow us online in the show notes or on dragonmount.com. On our website, we also have a ton of other great content about the Wheel of Time, blog posts, chapter and episode summaries, news, as well as links to our YouTube channel that has even more great videos over there. Unless you're watching this now on YouTube, then you know how to get to us, but that's fine. This is that message was just for our listeners that are listening to this as a podcast. Either way, you will find so many things to entertain you. Also, make sure to check out our Patreon. Not only do you get to support this community of creators here at Dragonmount, but we have so many other goodies for you there too. I am Kathy Campbell.
I'm Rajiv Moté.
And I'm Maureen Carr.
This is not the ending, but it is an ending. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you have an absolutely incredible day. Bye.